The Galactic Council sat inside their great chamber, a hall filled with shining metal walls and floating light screens. The war against humanity had gone on for years, and tonight the Council gathered to watch another battle unfold. On the largest screen, the alien fleet could be seen moving across the dark space near a small human colony. Ships shaped like claws and spears glowed with green energy. Their weapons hummed as they charged. The alien commanders laughed with sharp voices, believing victory was close. The Council had seen many battles before. They knew the noise of war very well, the shouting of orders, the roar of weapons, the endless chaos of conflict. Yet something felt different tonight. Something strange began to happen. On the battlefield, the humans suddenly went quiet. Their voices stopped. The radio waves that once carried orders and commands went silent. Even the sound of their engines seemed to soften. The battlefield became so still that one council member whispered, "Are they broken? Have they given up?" The alien commanders laughed louder. "Look at them," one said. "They are silent because they are afraid." Another agreed. "Yes, humans make noise when they try to be strong, but now they know the end is near." But deep inside the chamber, one old council elder did not laugh. His eyes, dark and filled with memory, narrowed as he leaned forward. He had studied humans longer than most. He had watched them fight not only with weapons, but with something deeper. He whispered a warning that only those closest to him could hear. "This is when we should be afraid." The battle screen showed human soldiers standing still behind cover, their mouths shut, their eyes sharp, their hands resting on weapons but not firing yet. They were not moving like prey. They were waiting like hunters. The alien fleet did not see it, but the silence was not weakness. It was the gathering of storm. One council member spoke. "Why are they not resisting? They are outnumbered. They are surrounded. They should be begging for help." But the old elder shook his head. "You do not understand humans. They do not waste sound. When they go quiet, it means something else. It means they are listening." The alien fleet pushed forward with confidence. They shouted to each other. Their voices filled the void of space. They made so much noise that they could not hear the silence of the humans. They did not notice the trap being set. Among the human forces, a commander raised his hand. No words left his lips, yet every soldier saw and understood. Their training was clear, their unity stronger than noise. One by one, human units slipped into position like shadows moving through darkness. Still, the aliens laughed. They believed silence meant fear. They charged, weapons ready to burn the human colony. But the council elder's heart grew heavier. He knew what was coming. He had seen it once before, long ago, and the memory still haunted him. On the screen, a single human sniper moved into view. No sound, no voice, only stillness. The sniper's finger pressed gently on the trigger. A flash of light cut across space. The first alien ship exploded before anyone realized what had happened. The alien commanders froze. The laughter stopped. Then, without warning, the silent storm began. Human forces erupted with deadly precision. Every shot perfectly timed, every move perfectly planned. It was not chaos, it was silent harmony. Inside the chamber, the council members stood in shock. They had never seen such control. Aliens shouted at one another, confused and afraid. But the humans did not shout, they did not cheer. They fought in silence, cold and unstoppable. The old elder spoke again, his voice heavy with truth. "I warned you, silence is not their whitebars, weakness, it is their strength." When humans go quiet in battle, it means the end is near, for their enemies. The screen showed alien ships breaking apart one after another. Flames burned in the void. The colony was safe. The humans had turned silence into a weapon more powerful than sound. The council chamber fell into silence as well. Not one dared to speak. Not one dared to laugh. For now they understood. The quiet of humans was more terrifying than their war cries. And so the legend of human silence began to spread. A story whispered in fear among soldiers of many races. A warning carried across the stars. The silence before the fire was the moment the galaxy should always fear. The galaxy shook with whispers after the battle. The council tried to hide the truth, but stories always find their way. Rumors spread from one world to another. They all spoke of the same terrifying thing. The humans had gone silent, and then the enemy had vanished. In the council chamber, leaders argued. Some said it was only luck. Others insisted it was a tactic that could be understood, but the elder who had warned them before shook his head slowly. It was not luck. It was not chance. It was silence. Silence is the signal of human focus. It is when they become something more than soldiers. While the council debated, the war continued. Another fleet was sent to crush humanity. This time it was larger, stronger, prepared with more advanced weapons. The aliens swore they would not be tricked again. They watched for human signals. They prepared for noise and chaos, but when the battle began, they heard nothing. On the edge of a dying star, human ships floated like shadows. Their weapons were charged, but their voices were gone. The silence spread again, thicker than darkness. The alien commanders shouted, ordering fire. Energy blasts tore across space, but they hit nothing. The humans were already moving. From the silence came the first strike. A single human destroyer appeared from the VKEC. Oid. It did not announce itself. It did not threaten. It simply unleashed a storm of fire. Alien ships shattered under the precision. One after another, they exploded into fragments. The council members watching gasped. They expected confusion. Instead, the humans moved as if they shared one mind. No orders were shouted, no words wasted. Each human ship shifted exactly where it needed to be, like pieces of a puzzle fitting together. The alien fleet grew desperate. They tried to counter with noise and commands, but the more they shouted, the more mistakes they made. Human silence had turned into a weapon of focus. Every quiet second was deadly. Every breath of stillness brought destruction. An alien commander screamed into the comms, "Why will they not speak? Why will they not fight like normal beings?" But his voice was answered only by the sound of another explosion. On the council screen, a human general finally appeared. His face calm, his voice quiet. "You think silence is weakness," he said. "But silence is how we hear the battlefield. It is how we strike where it hurts most. It is how we win." His words were spoken once, then he too went silent. The alien fleet broke apart. Ships tried to escape, but human squadrons hunted them down with cold precision. The void lit with fire, but the humans remained quiet. They did not cheer, they did not scream. They simply ended the fight. Inside the chamber, some council members trembled. They had never seen an army move like this. Others refused to accept it. "They are only clever this time. We will adapt," they said. But in their hearts they knew the truth. Humans had shown them something they could not copy. The elder spoke once more. "Do you see now? Silence is not nothingness. Silence is power. When humans go quiet, they are not broken. They are preparing the first strike. And when that strike comes, no one survives." Across the galaxy, soldiers began to whisper in fear. They spoke to one another in hushed tones. "Do not fear when humans shout. Fear when they stop." And on the worlds that listened, silence. The battle was over, but the silence of humans was not. Across the galaxy, reports came one after another. Different worlds, different wars, yet the same story repeated. The humans went silent, and then the enemy was destroyed. The council gathered again, their chamber filled with arguments. Some shouted that the humans were only using tricks. Others warned that this was no trick, but a pattern. A dangerous truth was forming. Every time humans stopped speaking in battle, every time their voices fell into stillness, the end was already decided. From the frontier colonies to the core worlds, alien soldiers began to whisper in fear. "Do not fear their war cries," they said. "Fear their silence." Commanders tried to silence these rumors, but soldiers carried fear in their eyes. No training could erase the memory of fleets burning after moments of quiet. One alien captain gave his report, his face pale, his voice trembling. "We thought they had lost. They stood still, not speaking, not firing. But then the silence changed. It became heavy. It became alive. And then, they struck. They struck so fast we did not even have time to scream." The council chamber grew heavy with unease. Some tried to laugh, but their laughter broke quickly. Deep inside, they knew the truth. This was no accident. Silence was becoming humanity's deadliest weapon. The elder rose once more, his voice calm but strong. "You still do not understand. Humans are different from us. We fill silence with words because we are afraid of it, but they embrace it. In silence, they see patterns. In silence, they share thoughts without sound. In silence, they prepare for the kill. The chamber fell quiet. The council members shifted nervously. They had created laws for weapons, shields, even forbidden technologies, but never for silence. Yet silence was destroying fleets faster than any forbidden machine. Across the galaxy, alien generals began demanding answers. They ordered their scientists to study humans, to learn the secret of their silence. But the scientists could not explain it. They recorded heartbeats, brain patterns, and voices, but still they did not understand. For silence was not a machine to copy. It was human instinct. Meanwhile, human forces continued their war. They moved from system to system, outnumbered but never outmatched. Their enemies filled space with noise while they fell into chilling quiet. Every time it happened, the result was the same. The enemy collapsed. In the barracks of alien armies, fear spread like fire. Soldiers refused to fight humans. Some even deserted. A single rumor was enough to break them. The humans are silent, they whispered. It is already over. The council tried to cover the panic, but even they could not hide their fear. Secret meetings grew longer, more desperate. One commander slammed his fist on the table. "We must find a way to break their silence," he shouted. Another replied, "How do you break nothingness? How do you fight what you cannot hear?" The elder looked at them all with weary eyes. "You cannot. Silence is not nothing. Silence is everything." Beyond the chamber, the galaxy shifted. Silence became more feared than the sound of war itself. Whenever humans entered a battlefield, their enemies watched with terror, waiting for the moment the voices would fade. Because they knew what came next was always death. The council chamber was darker than usual. The great lights that once shone with pride were dimmed. A sense of unease filled the air. For the first time in centuries, the most powerful rulers of the galaxy gathered not in strength but in fear. They had tried to deny it. They had tried to laugh at it, but the truth could no longer be hidden. Everywhere the same reports returned. Humans went silent. In battle, and then destruction followed. A hollow screen flickered to life showing the testimony of an alien admiral. His eyes wide with terror, his voice cracked as he spoke. "I commanded 60 ships. They had numbers, weapons, and shields. We were sure of victory. But then, the humans stopped speaking. It was as if space itself held its breath. In the next 5 minutes, my fleet was ash." The chamber went silent. No one argued now, no one laughed. Even those who once mocked the elders' warnings kept their mouths shut. The fear was too real. One council member finally broke the silence. "We cannot allow this pattern to spread unchecked. If every army fears silence, morale will collapse. We must create an alert, a signal, something to prepare our forces when humans fall quiet." Others protested. "To admit fear is weakness. To create such an alert is to confess we are powerless." But another voice rose, sharp and trembling. "We already are powerless." The elder stood slowly, his robe dragging across the floor. "I told you before, silence is not the end. Silence is the beginning. When they go quiet, they are not finished. They are becoming deadly. You cannot stop it, but you can prepare, and preparation may be the only way you survive." The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some shouted to ban all war against humans. Others demanded new weapons. Some even whispered about peace talks. But pride was a poison they could not swallow. No one wanted to admit defeat to such a young species. At last, the supreme speaker raised his hand, his voice heavy and final. "Then it is decided, from this day when human silence is detected in battle, every commander must trigger a red alert. It will mean only one thing: prepare for annihilation." The law was written in secret. It was never shown to the public. But across the fleets of the galaxy, a new code was quietly installed. They called it the Silent Protocol. A warning signal that flashed across ships whenever human comms fell silent. Some commanders mocked it. They said it was unnecessary. They said it was superstition. But in the shadows of their hearts they knew the council would not create such a law unless the threat was real. One alien admiral, scarred from battle, whispered to his officers, "Do not laugh, do not ignore it. I saw the silence once. I watched it crawl into my bones before the fire came. If you see that signal, pray to your gods, because nothing will save you. And so the galaxy changed. A single moment of human silence could now shake entire fleets. No one admitted it openly, but everyone knew. The Council feared humanity, not for their weapons, not for their numbers, but for their silence. What the galaxy did not know was that humans had only begun to show their power. The Council believed they had prepared, but the silent protocol was not protection. It was only the beginning of fear. The galaxy feared human silence, but they did not understand it. To most alien soldiers, it was only a nightmare, a warning before death. But to humans, silence was more than a tactic. It was a way of thinking, a way of living. On a captured battlefield, an alien prisoner sat inside a human outpost. His scales were burned, his armor broken. He had seen his fleet destroyed after the humans went quiet. Now, with trembling eyes, he asked a question. Why do you grow stronger when you stop speaking? Why does silence make you deadly? The human soldier who guarded him did not answer right away. Instead, he poured a cup of water and placed it in front of the prisoner. He sat down calmly, his face unreadable. Only after a long pause did he speak. Because silence is how we listen. The alien frowned, confused. The soldier leaned forward, his voice steady. Your kind shouts orders, fills the air with noise. You believe power is in sound, but humans, we learn in quiet, in silence. We hear the heartbeat of the enemy. We hear the movement of ships. We hear the truth hidden behind chaos. The alien frowned, confused. The soldier leaned forward, his voice steady. Your kind shouts orders, fills the air with noise. You believe power is in sound, but humans, we learn in quiet. In silence, we hear the heartbeat of the enemy. We hear the movement of ships. We hear the truth hidden behind chaos. The prisoner shook his head. But why risk silence in war? Noise gives courage. Noise gives control. The soldier smiled faintly. Noise gives the illusion of control. Silence gives us reality. In silence, we trust each other. We do not need to shout. We already know what must be done. Elsewhere in the council chambers, scientists studied endless data. They measured human soldiers' heartbeats. They recorded brain activity during silent battles. But no data explained it. Silence was not technology. Silence was discipline, instinct, and unity. It was something no machine could copy. In secret interviews, human veterans shared their thoughts. One said, when we are silent, we are one mind. We don't waste energy on shouting. Every second of quiet is a second of power, another explained. Our enemies think silence is weakness, but it is the moment we become strongest. It is the moment the world slows and we see everything clearly. Back in the council, fear grew heavier. They realized silence was not only a tactic of war, it was part of human culture. Humans found strength in stillness. They prayed in silence. They mourned in silence. They planned in silence. It was woven into their very nature. The elder warned again, you cannot fight this. You cannot erase it. Silence is not their trick. It is their truth. You fear it because you do not understand it, and what you do not understand will always destroy you. Alien soldiers across the galaxy began to dread silence even in their own lives. A quiet room, an empty hall, even the pause before orders made them uneasy. For in their minds, silence now belonged to humanity. Silence was the sound of death approaching. The prisoner in the outpost finally whispered, so silence is your weapon. The human soldier shook his head slowly. No, silence is not our weapon. It is who we are. And in that moment, the prisoner understood why fleets burned whenever human voices faded. For silence was not emptiness. It was humanity's deepest strength. The galaxy had watched in fear for years, but now the Council prepared for their greatest strike. A massive armada, 10 times larger than any fleet before, gathered at the edge of Terran space. Ships from 100 alien worlds, weapons shining brighter than suns, engines roaring like storms. They believed numbers would crush silence. They believed firepower would drown human calm. They cannot stay quiet against this, one commander sneered. No army can. But as the fleets approached, the humans did not answer with sound. Their comms went dark, their voices faded, their war songs ceased. Once again, silence spread. The alien soldiers shifted nervously in their ships. They remembered the stories. They remembered the warnings. A captain shouted, "Do not fear their silence. They are outnumbered. They will break." But even as he spoke, his crew's hands trembled, for silence had become the most terrifying sound in the galaxy. From the human flagship, no orders were given. The general stood tall, his eyes sharp, his lips closed. His hand moved once, a single gesture, and like shadows obeying one mind, the entire Terran fleet came alive. The first strike was brutal. A hidden squadron of human ships uncloaked from the void. Their cannons burned through alien shields before alarms could even sound. The void filled with fire, but still the humans said nothing. Alien commanders screamed orders, their voices filled with panic. Ships clashed and collided, their noise rising into chaos. But the more they shouted, the more they lost. Against human silence, noise became weakness. A survivor's log, later recovered, told the truth. "We thought they were outnumbered, but they moved as one. Every ship, every soldier, silent but connected. They struck with precision, as if silence itself was their weapon. We never stood a chance." The battle turned into slaughter. Alien fleets crumbled under silent strikes. Squadrons disappeared in minutes. Dread spread faster than the explosions. Every alien who survived swore they felt it, the silence pressing against their minds like a weight. Inside the council chamber, alarms blared. Screens showed ships burning, colonies falling. The silent protocol was triggered again and again. Red alerts filled every display. A commander shouted, "It cannot be stopped. They fight without words. They fight without fear. They fight as if silence itself obeys them." And then came the most terrifying moment. In the middle of the battle, the humans froze once more. Absolute silence, no movement, no sound. For a heartbeat, the galaxy thought it was over. Perhaps the humans had broken. Perhaps the silence was finally defeat. But then, without warning, the humans struck harder than before. The silence had been a pause, a gathering of strength. The alien armada shattered like glass. The largest fleet in galactic history fell in less than a day. When it ended, the humans did not celebrate. They did not shout victory. They stood in silence, watching the wreckage drift across the stars. The silence itself became their banner, more powerful than any anthem. The galaxy trembled. For they understood now, the silent war was not just a battle, it was a message. Humanity did not need words to win. Their silence had become the deadliest force in the universe. The silent war was over. The largest fleet ever built had burned. The galaxy that once laughed at humans now whispered their name with dread, not because of their weapons, not because of their numbers, but because of the silence they carried into every battle. The council chamber was filled with smoke and fear. Leaders who once stood proud now sat in trembling silence. They had watched the destruction. They had seen entire fleets vanish after the humans stopped speaking. There was no more debate. There was no more denial. The truth was carved into the stars. An old commander spoke with shaking hands. "We counted their ships. We measured their guns. We calculated every number. But we never understood their silence. We never understood that it was the one thing we could not fight." The elder rose one last time. His voice carried like a blade through the chamber. "You tried to make laws against silence. You tried to measure it, to control it, but you cannot command the storm. Silence is their unity. Silence is their weapon. Silence is humanity itself." From that day forward, the silent protocol was burned into the law of every fleet. If humans fell silent during combat, the signal would flash across ships. A single word: retreat. Alien soldiers grew superstitious. Before battles, they prayed not for victory but for sound. They feared the moment when human voices would vanish. They feared the stillness that came before the storm. On distant worlds, stories spread among children. They spoke of the humans who did not need words to win. They told tales of the deadly quiet that came before fire. Generations grew up believing silence was cursed. Some even covered their ears at night, fearing they might hear nothing, and no humans were near. But the humans themselves did not boast. They did not shout their victory to the stars. They carried their silence with them, calm and steady. They knew the galaxy was watching. They knew their enemies trembled, but still they said nothing, for silence was louder than fear. In time, the galaxy learned a lesson. It would never forget. They learned to fear not the roar of cannons nor the clash of armies, but the moment when everything grew quiet. And so the final message spread, whispered from soldier to soldier, world to world, until it became eternal. If the humans are silent, the battle is already lost. The council never laughed again, for even in their grand chamber, every pause, every breath of silence reminded them of the power that had changed the galaxy forever. And in the endless dark of space, silence lived on, not as emptiness, not as weakness, but as the most feared sound in the universe.